This is Susan Bradley for CSO Online. This week I'm going to do a challenge to you and also to myself. So if this little window is how you access servers and how you manage servers, I'm going to challenge you to stop using remote desktop connection. So why am I saying that we should stop using RDP? Mainly because of 3 different vulnerabilities that have come out lately that really showcases how we're still using a pretty archaic technology that's putting us at risk. Both in July and in August, a vulnerability has been released that basically when an unauthenticated attacker can connect to a target system using RDP and they send specially crafted requests to that port, the vulnerability is such that the attacker doesn't have to authenticate on the system. They can just basically throw those crafted packets right to that port 3389. And if the port is open and listening, they could access the system and gain rights on the system. They could install programs, view, change, and delete data, create accounts with full user rights on the system. The first vulnerability we had back in May was so severe that they even released patches for older systems. They recommended that we disable remote desktop services, enable network-level authentication, and even block port 3389 at the enterprise perimeter firewall. Microsoft even went so far as to release updates out to Windows XP, which I haven't seen a patch for Windows XP for years. And they released it to everyone, not just to those who have purchased extended support contracts. So now comes along August, and we have 2 more RDP vulnerabilities. Once again, if the attacker has specially crafted packets, they can throw them at port 3389, and again, if they gain access, they can install programs, change or delete data, or create new accounts with full user rights. So it's something you want to really take seriously and make sure that you patch as soon as possible, especially if you have systems that you're accessing straight over port 3389. Now, while it's been 3 months since the May updates came out regarding these RDP vulnerabilities, and in that time, about 1/5 of internet-facing RDP servers haven't been patched, I want to make sure that you take this seriously and don't just think just because we haven't seen an exploit in the wild that it's something to not take seriously. Open RDP ports are vulnerable to not just exploits like this, but to also brute force attacks, where somebody sits out there and attempts to guess the password over and over again and finally gets into the system. So many times I hear of medical systems in particular on older platforms that the admin still uses RDP to access and to maintain the system. If RDP used, and especially if it's used by attackers, it's sometimes hard to determine exactly who the good guys are coming in and who the bad guys are. The log files aren't clear. I've included a link in the article. And sometimes it's sometimes hard to determine which ones are the good guys and which ones are the bad guys. You sometimes have to go through step by step and look at both sides of the user side of the logs as well as the server side to determine which things are good authentications and which ones are bad. Back in February of this year, I had an article on how to install PowerShell 5 on Windows 7. In particular, I recommended that because it enabled logging, and also you could turn on PowerShell remoting. With PowerShell remoting, you don't have to open up RDP port or use 3389. You could do it in a secure way. And in fact, I recommend that you do it over TLS or secure socket layer. And I've got some recommendations on how to do that as well. But just a reminder, again, if this is how you connect to your servers and manage them, I want to challenge you to stop doing that. And think about other ways you can script the same things. PowerShell remoting is a very, very powerful tool so that you don't have to use port 3389 and expose yourself to additional risks. And don't forget, sign up for the IDG Tech Talk channel out there on YouTube. Until next time, this is Susan Bradley for CSO Online.